All right, so today we've got Michael Jamieson joining us. He is the World, European and Commonwealth medalist. He's also Olympic silver medalist in the London 2012 Olympic Games. And in 2014, he was the Commonwealth Games ambassador. He's now head coach of Natare West, a swimming club down in London, and also owns his own swimming scheme up in Glasgow. So, cheers, MJ. Thanks for joining us today.
How are you?
No, thanks for having us. Yeah, long time no see you guys.
I know, man. It's good to catch up.
Yeah, definitely. How are you doing? How's lockdown treating you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to be honest, I've won a watch here. I'm based down in London, but managed to get out to a friend's place in Somerset. They've got a pretty good home gym. A bit of countryside out the back as well, so I've been super lucky.
Yeah, Somerset's a beautiful place, so yeah, plenty of nature, some walks and stuff like that. Yeah, looked out really.
Yeah, perfect.
Nice.
Sorry, I was going to say, so how's it affected like training for your guys at Natare West at the moment and things?
Yeah, pretty difficult period, I guess, and you know, we spoke earlier. Swimming it's a pretty unique sport, isn't it? So it's a bit of a challenge to sort of mimic the same sort of physiological effect you get from being in the pool. But to be honest, I think we've done a decent job of it initially. You know, the first week into lockdown, we managed to loan some cardio kit from the school we're based at. So each one of our sort of more senior level kids was given a bit of an equipment list. They managed to get a watt bike, a rowing machine, some kettlebells, dumbbells and resistance bands and things like that. So, you know, based off that, we were able to sort of build in a fairly normal, or as close to as we could, training week. And we've just added in some extra sort of extracurricular training like yoga, you know, some mobility flows as well. And yeah, we're just sort of making the best of it. I think with the age group we have, sort of early to mid-teens, it's a really challenging time for that age group, you know, coming up to exam periods, you know, potentially university access and things. It's, you know, a pretty stressful time. So I think initially those first few weeks was, the messaging was, look, let's take our time to adapt to current situation, you know, new training environment, new training plan, you know, and have a real open communication and just keep in touch with the coaches and teammates. And I think initially, if we got through a week without some tears shed, I think we were doing pretty well. So yeah, definitely feeling for kids of that age group just now.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, are you keeping in touch? Are you having, like, I know some clubs are doing sort of Zoom meetings between their squads and things like that. Are you doing anything like that?
Yeah. So we're sort of checking in a few times a week, just going over the weekly outline in terms of training sessions. You know, the kids have all got their sort of heart rate belts and Bluetooth monitors, so they're sort of sending in their session data to us. And then we're going back during the week with a little bit of feedback on that. So, I mean, I think we've tried to sort of keep a bit of a human element in there as well. You know, I think a couple of the kids were understandably really struggling with motivation and adapting, certainly initially. So we were just focusing on, you know, what are the sort of triggers for those types of moods and those types of behaviours, and you know, how can we get on top of them slightly earlier, you know, maybe try and prevent them or shorten those periods, and just use it as a window of sort of self-empowerment, I guess, and trying to take charge of your own sort of training routine and just keeping fairly relaxed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's obviously nothing that, as a coach now, you've obviously come from your own swimming background, but you would never have experienced anything quite like this as a swimmer, to sort of be able to carry that experience into your coaching. So totally new for everyone, and yeah, just kind of doing what needs must for your squad and how that works best, isn't it, really?
Yeah, sounds like you guys have got quite a lot of equipment and technical stuff. Like, I mean, we didn't have any heart rate monitors. Like I was saying to you before, all I've got's a concrete slab and 2 bricks. As gym equipment at the minute, it's not exactly the most high tech. So if you've got rowers and heart rate monitors and all that kind of game, that's pretty fortunate, really. Especially living in London. I imagine that's where most of your athletes are based. They're not going to have probably many areas to get to exercise outside and stuff. So pretty fortunate on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think we just sort of made a call as a coaching team. You know, myself, Craig Gibbons, John Watson as well, and we just sort of got together and we took a little bit of a gamble, to be honest. You know, we were straight on Amazon, you know, ordering the heart rate belts and feedback. We got our kids to download a few different apps that could, you know, do guided mobility flows. You know, requested access to the school as early as possible. And we just sort of tried to drive that a little bit, you know, creating waivers that we could lease some of the equipment and things, and just basically, you know, fairly strongly suggested to the parents to do whatever they could to get to the facility in order to pick up what they could, because, you know, at the time we didn't know, obviously, and we still don't, you know, how long this period's going to last. So yeah, I think, you know, looking back now, I think it was, you know, a good decision to get, you know, as organised as we could early on. I think now, what are we, sort of week 9 of this sort of lockdown period? I think there's naturally going to be peaks and troughs in motivation and application for young athletes just now. So, you know, I think in terms of sourcing equipment, that's, you know, that's hopefully going to help those bits.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. I think it's going to be peaks and troughs for athletes at any age, not just younger guys developing as right at the top. Exactly the same. I mean, the guys that were trying to aim to make the Olympics this time, like, that must be the idea of trying to train now where it's indefinite, you don't know when and if you can get back to the pools. That motivation is going to be hard to train at home, especially, like I said, for swimmers where you can't even get in your own environment. Let's use that as a bit of a seamless segue to go back to some of your athlete journey kind of thing. So, like, looking at the Olympic cycles, like if we take it back to 2008, both Amy and myself, and you were the same as us, like we all missed qualifying for those Beijing Olympics, which wasn't a great deal of fun from my own personal experience. But then the same for you as with us. 4 years later, we all managed to qualify for 2012. Fortunately for you, you kind of went on and had like the meat of your life, and broke the British record and PB'd every single round. Can you talk to us a little bit about sort of like those 4 years leading into the 2012 games? Like, what was the difference from Beijing into London?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you know, Beijing. I was sort of 20 there, 19. Sorry, at Beijing trials. So, you know, certainly from my end, what probably wasn't in the same boat as you guys. You know, I think you were sort of esteemed performers, but but yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't expect to qualify that year. You know, we had James Curtin, Chris Gilchrist in the 200 breaststroke. You know, both those guys were sort of top 8 in the world at the time, and you know, I was just coming out of a fairly volume heavy training program. You know, I think I was about 75 kilos and built like the side of a 10-pound knot. So I didn't really think of myself as Olympic caliber at that stage. But I do remember it being a bit of a breakthrough event. You know, sizable PBs. I think it was third or fourth in the breaststroke and the 200 medley or something at the time. And you know, that sort of gave me a lot of motivation and self belief that the program I was doing, the journey I was on, was we were on the right track, really. I think a year after that, made a pretty big decision to leave my then coach Fred Vernew and move to University of Bath with Dave McNulty. And I think for me the main reason behind that switch was I needed to get bigger, I needed to get stronger, improve the 100 breaststroke in order to improve the first half of the 200. And I was miles off at the time, so I needed to make pretty sizable jumps in order to be in the frame for London.
Yeah.
I mean, you, well, from what I know and from what I've been told, you were very into kind of like every intricate detail of your training program, whether it be nutrition or, you like your S&C or training rep speeds that you go in and stroke rates and all sorts of things. And you would do a lot of research into that kind of stuff yourself. Did that change? Did that increase going from 2008 to 2012? Was that something that kind of helped you make a change, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think those 4 years I really made the transition psychologically from being, someone who wanted to be, at sort of Olympic level to really believing and acting like I was. And I think I was very aware of the areas I needed to improve on, and became pretty analytical of those areas. Sometimes too much so. As you guys know, it becomes quite difficult, the amount of training and volume and number of sessions you're doing. That it's an all-encompassing sport, isn't it? It sort of takes over your life, and important to sort of maintain that separation. But we sort of built a plan, and I remember Dave McNulty when we first met, and I had a whole booklet of notes before I joined Bath. I sort of sat down and said, look, these are all the areas I need to improve on if we want to be on the podium in London. And he said to me afterwards that he couldn't believe that it was almost like I was interviewing him to be a part of the group. So things had sort of switched the other way around. But really lucky to have Joe and Dave and a whole host of other and my sort of team as teammates and support network there to sort of hold you accountable to those improvements that needed to be made.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, obviously it worked out well. Yeah. You had an absolute me. What was it like to just, I don't know, to be on that level of form where you knew literally every race you went out for, every round you were getting faster and faster and faster. It must have been pretty good, and you were like so close to Goethe as well. So actually, to winning the whole thing, it was pretty incredible to watch.
Yes, I mean, looking back on it now, I'm sure you guys will have similar reflections. You look back on your career, and there's probably only a couple of meets, if you're lucky, where you just know things have clicked.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, it was at the games. I think I sort of knew before going into it that on the one hand, whatever result I got, whether that was heat, semi-final, final, podium, whatever it was, that was going to be my level, because I honestly could have said beforehand I'd done everything that I could have to sort of control what I was in charge of, and I think for that reason I felt super relaxed. I didn't really have the sort of negative connotations you sometimes come across with nerves. I only had the sort of excitement value of it. And I think during the meet itself, the first event was the 100 breaststroke, and in the heats I was in one of the outside lanes. It was a pretty sizable PB for me. It was first time under 60, and without doubt that was the biggest celebration of the week. After touching the wall and seeing the time, that was like just the relief of knowing that I was there, I was in the shape of my life, and I think that really just sort of helped me build some that last little portion of self-belief that I needed going into the 200. And yeah, I mean, I think through each of the rounds, we had a very clear plan with Dave, my coach, and we wanted to be in the middle lanes every round. So I think after the heats had qualified, I think I was through second, maybe through to the semi-finals. So I had a middle lane for the evening. And coming out here in that crowd was like absolutely incredible. So I sort of tried to ride the wave of that a little bit to make the improvement. And going into the final was exactly where I wanted to be. Was outside Daniel Geerter, the eventual winner, who was a much stronger 100 breaststroke swimmer than me. And that whole 4-year period, going back to 2008, that whole period was about getting out on that first 100 as fast as possible with an element of control, so I could sort of use my strength that second half of the race well. Yeah. And yeah, I just remember sort of being in the call room before the final and just not, I just couldn't stop smiling, because I was like, this is literally it. We've trained for 10 years for this, so just enjoy it. If you get DQ'd, you get DQ'd. If you fall in, whatever, we've made it this far. So yeah, I mean, just I guess the older you get as well, these sort of memories appreciate and value, don't they? I mean, I was pretty quick to put the Olympics to bed afterwards and get back in the water and back to training. But I think that's an observation I would make. If I could turn the clock back, I'd have taken a bit more time to sort of enjoy that journey a little bit more.
Yeah, I can understand that. Is it? I've heard a story as well, and correct me if I'm wrong. Is it true or not that when you were sort of a teenager, you kind of you worked out what time you believed it would take to win an Olympic medal in 2012, and rather than have that as one huge outcome goal, you actually broke it right down and worked out how much essentially you'd need to knock off each training session or each week, or to actually make it bite-sized pieces. Is that right? Is that true?
Yeah. And after watching the games in 2004, after watching the games in Athens, coach at the time I said, look, I want to put together a wee document on, let's project the performance of look at the last 30, 40 years of Olympic Games results and the majors in between that, work out the average progression and get a target time for it. And I'm sure, if my memory serves me right, I'm sure we had bronze was going to be 2:86, and Japanese swimmer won it in 2:08.2. So I think at the time I set that, I must have been swimming 2:27, 2:28 for 200 breasts. So it was literally miles off of it.
That's some good.
And yeah, and again, yeah. But again, no, it's a good point, because I think, you mentioned earlier that sort of journey between 2008 and 12, that was a big turning point, because, I sort of got stuck as a mid to late teenager, 16 to 19. I didn't improve so much. Beijing Olympic trials, I made a huge jump in my PB, and that sort of just about brought us back onto the curve that I needed to be on.
So, I mean, that's pretty awesome. It's a lot of good foresight, that, like Amy said, to pretty geeky as well, mate, I gotta say. But it worked. But like, what was it like in those periods where you predicted the curve, you predicted what the times need to be, so where you need to be improving, how you're going to get close to that time? And if you have a couple of years where you're getting further away from that target time you've got, even if you're getting a little bit faster, you can feel that target time is getting further away almost. Like, how do you get through that bit to get back to that 2008 confidence boost?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for sure. That's I guess those types of questions are, it's like the $1 million question, really, isn't it? If you're able to control that journey, then you've won a watch. And I think experience does help, like acknowledgement of the actual process you're going through, of sort of hitting your head against a brick wall for a period. But it's for me, I think it was a sort of maybe a little bit of a sort of deeper self-belief that, okay, I'm not where I want to be right now, but it doesn't mean that the weekly content I'm doing, just because I'm not seeing the result in the tapered meet, it doesn't mean that I'm not changing physiologically, because I have to be, because I'm there, because I'm training, because I'm doing the work. So I think I sort of relied a lot on that, trying to take a bit of a logical approach to it, and thinking that there is no way that I've been training for 2 full seasons and I'm not a better athlete. I know I am. I just haven't sort of seen the results yet. I just don't have it in my hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, in saying that, I know how difficult it is, and especially for young athletes. Everyone matures, develops, grows at different stages, different speeds, and it's such a difficult thing to get across to a young athlete. But appreciation of your own process, your own journey, and trying to use that as a bigger picture rather than this constant comparison to stats, to numbers, to people around you. It's that commitment to your own personal journey. Control the things that you can be in charge of. You can take charge of certain elements of your career, and if you're improving them over time, and the results will come. They have to. They just do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really nice point for a lot of people to take away, because everyone's going to struggle with that at some point. Everyone's going to have that plateau, sure. And I mean, I think that's where coach-athlete relationship comes in quite a lot as well, because you have to have that belief and trust in your coach and what they're doing to get you through those times. So I think strengthening that relationship, however works best for you, is really important. But obviously you've come out the other side of swimming now. You are coaching. You're doing lots of different things. Sorry. One thing that you have also done is some commentating. Coming to sort of 2016, not maybe the year that you wanted or kind of expected or hoped for, but you did go to Rio, but you were commentating on the 200 breaststroke final there. Admittedly, that's got to be pretty tough. But how was it? How did you find that?
Yeah. I mean, I think, to be honest, initially I didn't want to go. I sort of said I didn't really want to be there. I obviously knew at that time I wasn't going to continue in the sport competitively. I think personally, I kind of knew I needed to compete at the Olympic trials for Rio in order to get that sort of closure, but I knew I wasn't in shape to make the team. I think sort of fast forwarding to the games, I mean, looking back, I was like so grateful that I chose to go. I decided at a few days' notice I was going to do it. I was going to go out there, manage to get some work with the BBC, doing some commentating. Come on to the race there. But I remember one of the first nights I was there. I think the BBC were a couple of commentators down, and they asked if someone could do a live down the line preview of the first night of the finals. And I was thinking, I can't. Go on then, I'll do it. So I was standing outside of the pool in Rio, previewing the finals for that night, and the basketball arena was just behind us, and I think it was Argentina against, I want to say Uruguay. It was like a sort of derby, and all the Argentine fans came out behind me just as we went on air. So I was getting instructions through the earpiece in my ear, which I couldn't hear because all these guys behind me were, jumping around, singing, dancing with beers and things. So that was my sort of first experience live down the line on the BBC. I was thinking, you've got to be kidding me on.
Thrown it at the end.
Yeah. But no, I mean, commentating on the 200 breast was a little bit surreal, to be honest. Sort of standing above the start line. It was a wee bit emotional, actually, because obviously I would have wanted to be there. I really wanted to be there. I think at that time I was still struggling to come to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to be competing anymore. One of my long-time teammates and one of Joe's teammates, Andrew Willis, was obviously in the final as well. And yeah, just sort of remember going into autopilot and sort of describing the race, being aware of the splits and very aware of, you know, who to watch for over certain parts. And it ended up as a real sort of blanket finish. The last 25, it was, you know, everyone was in a dead line across the pool. And then, you know, Andrew unfortunately just was touched out for that bronze medal, you know, so I remember being absolutely gutted for him. And, you know, looking at the time as well, that I think the winner was 207.4. It was a few 100s slower than, you know, what had been before. And of course, you know, that's sport, and you've got to do it when it counts. But, you know, it was pretty tough to sort of process all that in a 5-minute period. You know, you're watching these guys come out. You know, someone's just won an Olympic title, someone's won an Olympic bronze medal, and, you know, you're trying to commentate on that at the same time, thinking, oh, I really wish I was involved in that. But in hindsight, you know, that was a nice bit of closure. It was a nice opportunity as well, professionally, to be involved in that side of it. And yeah, looking back, I'm glad I was there.
Yeah, that's cool that it gave you a bit of closure, though. I was wondering, it's either going to hurt or injure, isn't it? Kind of thing. Must be hard while you're doing it not to like have any bitterness come across in your commentary.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have gone off on a tangent there. These guys are out in 102.5. That's rubbish. I could do much better than that. But really, really grateful to be there. It was a really cool opportunity, and yeah, again, it was quite tough to watch. You know, as not just personally, but seeing your teammates sort of train all those years and put in the graft as well, and to come so close. It's what makes sport so appealing, doesn't it? It's what makes us love it, but it's so tough to watch at times.
Yeah,
definitely. And I mean, like you said, it was quite an emotional experience for you, as it would be for anyone. And kind of you've, you know, well, closed off your swimming career as an athlete, and you've kind of found a bit of a passion for helping those that struggle with mental health, kind of especially athletes coming out of sport and things like that. And you've actually done a TED talk as well on that kind of topic. So, I mean, could you tell us a little bit about what got you into that side of stuff and how your TED talk went as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a long time I was always sort of aware that of sort of habitual behaviours and how your environment shapes the way you behave, and then sort of recognising patterns in your own behaviour. And that could be something as simple as, you know, I'm grumpy on the days I don't get a good night's sleep. You know, it can be as complex or as simple as you want to make it. And I think for a long time, you know, going back to sort of 2008 time, you know, I was living and training in Paris. There I'm on, you know, not at the standard I want to be, not a funded athlete, and, you know, some challenging things going on there psychologically. But yeah, I think I just sort of acknowledged that there were times in my career where I sort of allowed my performance as an athlete to completely overlap my sort of identity just as a person. And I think that's something that, you know, we all have to be aware of, but particularly in sport, because it's only natural that you sort of tie those two things together. And if you're not sort of proactive and recognizing those patterns and committing to a sort of, you know, almost psychological fitness regime in the same way you would train in the pool, then, you know, there are some potential pitfalls there. But yeah, I mean, the TED Talk was an amazing opportunity. Again, it was, you know, I guess it was sort of an end goal of mine in terms of, you know, sort of talking about, you know, various mental health aspects and within sport, you know, my own journey through sport, you know, how it ended. And I think just, you know, because of the background of the results in London, I had a few really cool opportunities to sort of share that and talk about it. And I just found that over time, it was almost like a sort of version of therapy for myself, you know, speaking about it, and you begin to make slightly different connections, and you recognise points of learning and points where you maybe should have recognised something and didn't. so I was sort of going through that process as well as I was doing these events, and yeah, the TED Talk was sort of the end goal to all of that. So it came at the right time as well, because a lot of the stories were getting fairly dated given my age now. So it was good to get that done.
Did a really good job of that.
Yeah, it was really good.
Really, really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, if nobody's seen it, go out and watch it. Find it on YouTube. Where did they film it?
So that was in Glasgow.
Okay.
So I think that the sort of TED events, they sometimes partner up with universities and things to host their events and speakers. So yeah, things sort of came together on that. But certainly some stuff that's relatable for young athletes in terms of managing what are nowadays pretty strenuous routines, aren't they? We see so many kids now try to balance sport with academic pressures and potential, their social life, any extracurricular things they do on the side. It's a super busy schedule. It's really difficult to manage, sort of seeing that side of it now as a coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, sort of trying to steer these guys to make some potentially on some front some better decisions than I did.
Yeah. So how do you get that into your young athletes? Because hindsight's always 20/20, isn't it? For anybody and for athletes, you always look back at your career, you could change this and that. Like you say, you take more time to celebrate London. The simple things like that. How do you get that into your athletes to, like, I know, again, $1 million question, so that they save themselves a bit of that heartache, or
I guess they're all a bit different, aren't they?
Yeah, everyone's a little bit different as well. So, like, how do you and Craig try and put that holistic approach into you guys?
Yeah. So I think one of the advantages we have is that we're a pretty small team. So we have got potentially a bit more time per athlete to sort of build that rapport, get to know the individual, as opposed to the athlete potentially. So I think it does start with a real intention to get to know the individual and to learn a bit about their psychological patterns and behaviour patterns that they might show at training. And again, that could be as simple as you can acknowledge when they've had a particularly stressful day at school, or if they're under a bit of pressure academically. So I think we sort of tried to set that out early doors and just said to the kids fairly openly that we did really want to get to know them. We didn't want to just be swim coaches that they come in, goggles on, and jump in, get the session done and out. We wanted to really commit to being a team and building some positive culture there. So we set some ground rules on how the kids interact with the coaches and with their teammates, just in terms of conversation and checking in with people, asking if they're okay. If not, why not? Is there anything they can support on? And then a bit wider than that, we're sort of implementing some education workshops, an introduction to mindfulness and breath work. So I think initially trying to sell that to the kids was quite challenging. Because I think this idea of we actually sort of relabeled it as breathwork. I think if you use the word meditation, people still tend to run away a little bit at times. So,
Right.
but that in itself has been a real learning journey for me as well as a coach. And how do you sort of gently suggest these things? But our guys have really reacted super positively to it. Just building a few strategies on how to manage certain situations. A few exercises that they can do on the phone, as I mentioned in these workshops, and learning how their breath can control and impact their moods potentially, and sort of trying to build a framework there. We've done some yoga and looking to progress the breath work and mindfulness stuff. So yes, a few different bits. I mean, I guess we're sort of still learning as well, trying to implement it.
Quite
I think
outside
the next
box,
stage for us, yeah, the
yeah,
next stage for us is to sort of build a framework, build a framework that sort of overlays with the swim sort of physiological elements, and we can sort of build a pathway like that.
yeah.
Oh, right,
That's fantastic, mate. Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not your normal swimming program. Normally, you do your pull sessions, you do your weight sessions, you do your eating, you do your sleeping, and then you go race. That's all you've got.
Sleep, swim.
The sleep, swim. That's all you've got. All you needed, apparently. So, yeah, it's really, really sort of different stuff, and it'd be interesting to see how your team develops over these next few years with these additional like ideas and stuff that you're implementing. How's it gone so far? Has it been, like you said, they've responded quite well to certain things? Is it being reflected in performances straight away, or is it going to be a bit of a longer strategy, or a bit of both?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can sort of see differences from the kids that we've had for the 2.5, almost 3 seasons now. We can sort of tell the difference when we can spot differences in personnel if we have a new member, or if we have someone that's maybe not been with us as long. In terms of performance, that I think you obviously believe in your own product, I think, and we do think is working. I think as a sort of wider view, it is slightly different, slightly different sort of sporting climate in London, because just logistically it's so difficult and time consuming to get around the city. So you're under a little bit of pressure to sort of make every session, every 30-minute window count, and it's I guess a little bit of an oxymoron. You're sort of trying to teach mindfulness and being a bit more present and controlling your mood and slowing down, but at the same time you're sort of trying to get that balance of driving productivity and making the most of the time you have with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a constant balance, but I think, as I say, our next challenge is sort of putting this down as an effective framework that we can look to take to the next level and sort of overlay as a part of youth development. But yeah, so far we're super happy with it, and the kids seem to be responding pretty well, and more importantly, enjoying it. They're enjoying that sort of new aspect to training, I think. So yeah, positive so far.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, kind of like going back a little bit, but I mean, we've talked a bit about kind of those coaching philosophies that you guys have down there, and you have set this club up from scratch. There's a lot of clubs that have been around for many, many years, but this one is brand new, and you were part of that setup initially. So kind of how did it come about, having Natare West kind of as a new club?
Where's the name come from?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so the name was Craig Gibbons' idea, so he can take credit for that. And we initially asked for or requested permission to be called Swim West London, and then I think the second option was one of the pros we're based at is in Hammersmith, and it was, I think the feedback came back and Swim England said we weren't allowed to have the word swim in the name. So the alternative they offered was the Hammersmith Penguins, which was given a hard no. And then, yeah, it was from that, basically, Craig was looking at, different varieties of the word swim, and Natare is Latin for swim. So it's effectively Swim West London, Natare West London. So, yeah, we were really happy with that. And then, Hammersmith Penguins just doesn't suit me at all.
What's wrong with that?
But no, I mean the club. I think at the time, there's a couple of coaches in London that have been doing a really good job, and there was some pro space available in Hammersmith, and there seemed to be an appetite for a few age group kids to potentially have a slightly different philosophy. I do really believe that the sort of youth sport climate in London is a slightly different kettle of fish, and you have to sort of adapt and find a model to suit the population. And
how's it different? How do you mean?
Well, I think we are sort of familiar with probably fairly high volume swim programs. A lot of work on aerobic capacity. And I'm not sure about you guys as young age groupers and teens, but I think when I was sort of 14 to 16, 17, I was still up well above 60k a week. I think shake the head. But we wanted to try and build a more individual model. I think we sort of believe that you can build aerobic capacity if it's trained at the right level and the right intensity. So, our volumes are a lot lower than that. We're around 35, 40k, which is still a fair whack. It's a lot to get through, but we only do 7 sessions per week. So we only have 7 hits in the water. So I think being able to have a weekday fully void of any training, we really wanted to try and push the kids into using that day as something where they could have a bit more of a social life. They could pursue a hobby, or if needs be, get caught up on schoolwork and things. So that's one thing that's come back as a real positive, that parents and family members are saying it's really helped that sort of family dynamic at home, where the kids aren't coming back looking like a half-shut knife and desperate to get fed and go to bed. There's maybe a wee bit more engagement there, and a few have supported. A few have said they've had improving school results and things just for that extra day's rest. So trying to take a more holistic view on performance as well. And it's not just about swim performance for us, but it's about how to perform and develop across a whole host of areas. So we felt like there was a little bit of a market for that, and we only started with 6 or 7 kids. So we've sort of come a long way since then, building relationships with the school and with local schools as well. Just sort of being visible in the area, being open to communicating, sharing ideas, getting people in for sessions, as a coaching team, delivering sessions elsewhere, and just generally try to be a sort of positive and be visible in the area, and try and build relations and hopefully build results that way.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I mean, I do like that principle of not your words, but less garbage yardage. I was never a fan of garbage yardage. Just like you say, you end up just treading through life like a zombie. You're trying to do everything, and you end up doing everything to a lesser degree of your ability than what you could do. Less quality. Yeah, it's just, I do agree with that. I think in the past, there's definitely been those opinions that more is better, and I think people are starting to come around to the fact that that's not necessarily the case now. So I think starting that off with age groupers especially is a good way of implementing that, and it transferring through into senior level for sure.
And it's got to be enjoyable, hasn't it? And
exactly.
You want to, if you're trying to promote more ownership on the athlete's perspective, you want them to be chasing more. You want them to say, I want another session, I want to try and improve and open up some more doors. So I think I really believe in that sort of philosophy.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you haven't got to work hard, but in the right
yeah, for sure.
To Ivan the other day, I'm sure you remember Ivan. And he was saying, I saw along the similar lines of the kids have got to want it, they've got to be happy in doing it, otherwise they're just going to resent it, and it'll be a bad relationship with their sport as much as anything else. So what would kids need to do? Can anybody just join you guys? Have you got a criteria, the standard? Like how do people get involved?
Yeah, I mean, we've been fairly open. You know, we'll sort of have a chat with anyone. We'll allow anyone to come in and try it. As I say, I think we've been sort of limited a little bit just in terms of the pool time and availability we have. You know, we wanted to. I guess one of our biggest USPs is a sort of more individualised approach. And I think if you're going to stick to that and really offer that, you need to maintain some space, some capacity in the pool. So we were really conscious of that fact. I think now after going for a few years, we need to be a little bit more specific just in order to control the numbers within each age group. And I think that will obviously enable us to do a much better job of the delivery of the coaching. Yeah, so I think we're more than happy to sort of have a chat to people and invite people in, give advice and things like that. And yeah, I think it has to be a good fit on both sides, doesn't it? As you mentioned, Joe, it's got to be. The swimmers have got to want it, and you want to see a little bit of ownership there and a little bit of drive from their side in terms of, they want to improve because, again, Amy, you mentioned that it's a tough sport, isn't it? You really have to be willing to graft if you want results.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, bringing it kind of back to another of your passions, you believe that right back to square one, learning to swim is really important. And you also, like Joe mentioned in the intro at the start, you've got your own swim academy back up it's in Glasgow, isn't it? Or is it across Scotland?
Yeah, so it's in Glasgow. Yeah, so we've been going just over 2 years now. We've got 3 venues in Glasgow. We're looking to get one in London launched in September, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, I think the same philosophy sort of filters through to that. One of the things we've sort of pushed there is all of our staff are trained in mental health first aid. We've got a lot of other, sort of extracurricular qualifications in terms of childcare and things like that.
Right.
Where we really wanted to, again, create a more individualised approach to learn to swim. So we've got smaller ratios in the real non-swimmer, the real beginner classes. So smaller ratios there, obviously a bit more time with the instructor, a bit more of an opportunity to sort of build a rapport and a relationship with them. And yeah, it's been pretty exciting. I think it was a sort of natural transition for me out of sport into business, and yeah, it's going really well so far. We've got just over 800 kids a week coming in, with the new site coming online towards the end of the year. So it's definitely keeping me busy.
Yeah, especially with you living in London, I can see that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's great that you've sort of given back to the sport so much, because I know, like you saw mentioned before, you did struggle after leaving the sport, and it could easily have gone that you got resentful and just walked away, took off into being successful in something else, in different business. But to have come back into swimming and like put all that knowledge back in, right down to the bottom, and then with your own like guys age group and into senior, it's a really good position. I feel like you're going to influence quite a lot of people there, so it's good that you're still within the sport. I'm quite grateful for that. Yeah. Have you got
any new ventures to show us or tell us about?
I mean, yeah, so we're one or two others that I'm sort of working on just now, looking at. We actually got pretty lucky with the timing. We were in Glasgow just before start of March, really before the virus sort of took control, and looking at sites there to open a little sort of boutique fitness concept. Again, with a little bit of a view on mindfulness there, looking at yoga and meditation classes, and then a sort of signature fitness class, sort of hit and circuit training. So yeah, I think I think it was great for me to get a head start in business and swim, and it's really cool still to be involved in the sport. I think just sort of personally, I want to try and branch out a little bit more and sort of challenge myself in a few other areas there. So yeah, it's been a super busy couple of years, but really grateful for the opportunities I've got, and yeah, again, like pretty grateful still to be involved in sport and to be working with a really good group of young kids.
Yeah, well, I think they're lucky to be working with you guys as well. So yeah, like we say, it's good that you're giving back to the sport, because coming out of the sport can be tough sometimes. So it's great to see, and you're obviously going to be helping a lot of people and looking at things in maybe a slightly different way as well, which is always good. We've got to be open to new ideas, new things. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, mate, that's fantastic. Cheers for coming on tonight and telling us all about what you're up to, and yeah, wish you all the best for the future with everything.
Yeah, thank you, MJ.
No, thank you. It's good to catch up with you guys again. Doing a great job as well with Swim Swift, so congratulations to you guys as well.
Thanks very much, mate. Come back anytime.
Right.
All right. Take care, guys. Cheers.